Hey everybody, Ray here. Welcome back to another video. So last video, got the car up and running, driving down the road. And now, everything's been great. So, good on that side. Just doing a lot of tuning. So every day that I drove it 4 times this week, I think. Something like that. I put a couple 100 kilometers on. Yeah, just little stuff, just a lot of, buttoning things up, making adjustments. I adjust my transmission was shifting really hard, so I turned my modulator down, I think 2 turns, and it's working a lot better now. I had my one band adjusted, didn't have it adjusted properly, so I had to redo that. One valve cover was leaking, so I just fixed that. What else? Inside door trim pops off now, so I got to put a riv nut. It was just a sheet metal screw holding the trim on, so I got to do that. Just a lot of little stuff. Yeah, there's something every day. Oh, my steering wheel started squeaking. That was driving me nuts. I had my steering wheel off like 5 times trying to get it to stop. Finally got it to stop squeaking. What else? Oh, mirror fell off. That fell off day one. Those cables that I redid, the one let go, and then the second one let go, the one that I didn't replace. And so yeah, as soon as I got home, mirror fell off right on the ground. I'm like, oh, okay, just the inside. So I'd take that off, make new ends, put it back in the mirror, did that. Just a lot of little things. Yeah, valve cover was leaking. So every time I came home, there was a puddle of oil on the ground. Not much, just a little bit. And I thought my transmission was leaking again. And I just wiped it 10 minutes ago with a paper towel, and it was oil. It wasn't transmission fluid. So it was just leaking down and blowing underneath onto the transmission. So not a big deal. And I could see the leak where the drip was coming down the side of the block. So nothing else down low is leaking. I did have a couple oil pan bolts that were leaking. It wasn't around the oil pan, it was just through the bolt, so on the inside. So took those out, cleaned it up with brake cleaner, dried it off, siliconed it, shoved it back in. So far, it's been working good. Yeah, so that's the update. Nothing else has really changed on it. I don't know. Let me show you this. I don't know if I showed you that. Put this on, last week. Look at the shine. Oh, man. This is just an overflow bottle for my radiator. Yeah, got that off Amazon. Just an aluminum tank. It's got a little vent in the top, so I have it hooked up so I'm not dumping coolant all over the place. Yeah, nothing real serious. Oh, my linkage wasn't adjusted for my transmission, so I think I have that. And by linkage, I mean it wouldn't start in park. I'd start in neutral all the time, so I got that fixed. My carburetor. The choke wasn't set properly, so on these, let me just show you what I had to do in case anybody has one of these carbs or a carb with an electric choke on it. So you can adjust how it works. So ideally when it's fully open, though this is straight up and down, and you adjust it by loosening these screws and then turning it, and there's a little mark right there. So this is set to have it come on less, this is have it come on more. I had it turned I didn't notice that mark because it's on the inside. For some reason there was a mark out here, I thought that was it. It wasn't, so I turned it enough, it fell off the spring inside, so I didn't have a choke for a couple days, so I got that fixed, put it back on, so now it fires right up. Choke runs for maybe a minute or two. It's still running rich. I tuned the carb again after I drove it to work and back, so it was nice and warm when I got it home. So then I did my adjustments. I still have my vacuum gauge hooked up. So I used my vacuum gauge and I hooked up that dwell meter I have. So I was able to watch the RPMs, got my screws set right on my carburetor, and yeah, runs great. Timing is set. So I'm all in, I believe, at 32 or 33 degrees. And the initial timing is about 20, I believe. This, I think it's 20. Yeah, because this distributor only puts in 12 degrees of advance. If I remember right, I have my printouts here. So depending on what model of distributor you have, it tells you what the advance is, your mechanical advance of your distributor. Yeah, so there's your distributor here. And yeah, centrifugal advance could be 14, could be 16, depending on what model. Yeah, so it's 14 degrees. Most of them are 14 degrees. That's what this one is. Yeah, so it's set to 20 and I have about 33 or 34. So it might be off a degree. It's hard to tell with my timing light isn't the greatest, so I might be off a couple. And the vacuum advance can be anywhere from 11 to 8. I'm not sure. I believe this is the one I have. I can't find a part number on it. Just going by what I see. Yeah, I had the vacuum advance hooked up. So yeah, when you're cruising, it's in the mid 40s for advance. So yeah, it's not pinging. It's running great. It's running strong. Yeah, it runs great. Very happy with it. My dwell is set. I think there's a range of like 26 to 31. I'm sitting right at 30. So yeah, I'm just running points. So yeah, that's about it for the update. The next thing I have, it is still running rich. My plugs are pretty black. So I ordered a calibration kit for this carburetor. So I'm going to see if I can make an adjustment. There's needles that you can put on each side, and there's springs. They seem to be, the more vacuum you have, you may have to put in, or if you have less vacuum, you have to put a weaker spring in. It seems to be fine that way. I'm going to see about just changing the needles without, hopefully that'll do it. It's not far off, but you know, it's far enough that I want to make a change without doing jetting. The next step is like doing smaller jets, actually taking the carburetor off and then tearing it apart and putting new jets in. But you can do the needles just from the top. So hopefully that comes soon, and then I can go through tuning the carburetor. So basically I don't have an AFR gauge, so that's what everybody recommends, of course. Air fuel ratio gauge. I don't have one. I was going to put one in, but I just didn't have one at the time, so I didn't put one in. So basically what the manual says to do is drive down the road, and at every 10 kilometers, what you're doing is going to make a graph of vacuum. So you have your vacuum gauge, have someone else read it off. So if you're going 20 miles per hour, read your vacuum. 30, I'm going to, keep it in one gear. 30, 40, 50, mark your vacuum. So you're looking for the highest vacuum. So then you make a change, and then you see what that vacuum. So if it went down, then you know you went the wrong way. So if you went up, you're doing good. So you want the highest vacuum possible. So that's what the plan is. So I'll get those data points, put them on a graph, and see where we're at for that. But until my kit comes here, I don't have to do that. So yeah. When that kit comes in, I guess I'll video that just to show how it's done. I've never done it before. I'm just going by what the book says, and so far that's what I've been doing with most of this build, is going by the book, and it's worked out. So it's funny how that works. Yeah. Oh god, I need the bath. Look at all the bugs and stuff. Oh, I aligned my headlights. I did that. They were out of alignment, so I need to do it actually I only did it in the garage here, so I was only 10 feet away. But I need to go out and do it in the barn. So it's supposed to be 25 feet. They're aimed a little low, I think. So I've only driven it just kind of at dusk. So that's where all the bugs came from. But on that note, I'll pick this up again when I start doing some tuning, or actually go measure my vacuum down the road. We'll see how that turns out. Well, it's a day later. We're back again. So I found out, I thought I had fixed my choke. I thought that was the problem, that the spring had fallen off, but it wasn't getting power at all. It should have 12 volts when the key's on, and it should heat up, and you should be able to see that choke flap open, right? So, still wasn't moving. So I went to watch it, and it didn't move at all. Just kind of stayed the way it is. Well, that was odd. So I ran a jumper right to 12 volts, right to the side of the choke, and then you could see it slowly open. So I'm like, okay. So the choke worked. So I checked. I didn't have any power to that wire for some reason. Don't know why. So I followed my wires back. Found out that I didn't have one of the fuses in the fuse block, because there is no real wiring schematic for this wiring harness I use. Use an American Auto wire. It's a great wiring harness, gives you every wire you'll ever possibly need. The only problem is it doesn't give you a schematic, so you don't know where, like that 12 volts to the choke, I don't know where it's coming from. I know it's coming from somewhere, whether it's coming from the ignition, whether it's coming from the fuse block, or what fuse it's attached to. So there were a couple, like I wasn't using the fog lights. I didn't have the fog light fuse in, because I don't have fog lights. And then there was something else. What was my other one? I can't remember. But it was another one I didn't have that one in. Oh, here it is here. Fuel pump. So fuel pump fuse. So I'm not using an electric fuel pump, so I didn't have that one hooked up. So it's one of those two. I put both those fuses in. Now I got 12 volts. So I had emailed American Auto Wire to see if they actually have a schematic. Like, wiring diagram's good, perfect for installation, but troubleshooting, it's nice to have that schematic. They do not provide a schematic for it, and they don't have one. They said they have one for some of the other ones, but not for this one. So that was my only issue. That's the second time that's happened. So I kind of knew where to look. I forget what else. I had something else that wasn't giving me 12 volts, and I realized I didn't have one of the fuses in. So I guess the trick is just put all the fuses in and not worry about it. So what else did I do? Oh, the valve cover was still leaking. So I took it off. I think it was leaking over the top of the valve cover, so I siliconed that gasket to the valve cover itself. It's just a rubber, actually a rubber with steel in the middle valve cover gasket. So I'm just letting it dry. We'll see how it goes. We'll take it for a spin today. And yeah, so far, that's been it. Oh yeah, one of my oil pan bolts I took out, it was leaking too. So siliconed it, put it back in. So we'll find out later on if it fixed anything. Getting tired of cleaning up a small puddle of oil under this thing every time I stop. So, alrighty. Well, another day has passed, or a couple days, I guess, since my last little video there, and I decided that I was going to put a tack in. So there it is. Just a little guy. It's a 2.5 inch tack. I had a few old ones kicking around, but they just didn't fit. One was really big. One was like an insert, so it wouldn't fit. This one I got off of Amazon. It's an Equus, I believe. Yeah, it actually matches the gauges almost perfectly, which is really nice. And well, let's see if this starts. It should work. Oh, and I have it wired into my lights too, so it should kick on. It's a little brighter than the actual dash lights, so we'll see how that goes. But let's fire it up. There we go. Yeah, seems to work all right. Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. Yeah, nothing real serious. The usual tack. I had kept my wires under the hood that went to, like, if you had an actual tack in your dash, those wires were still there, so I just used those, spliced into them for this. Power wire went to my ignition one of these spare ignition spots on my fuse block. Ground and the dash light. With this wiring kit, it had extra wires for the dash lights. So yeah, that was pretty easy. So not too bad. Yeah, my one thing I did mention, or no, if I didn't mention. You can see my fuel gauge right there. So it's kind of on empty. So that is actually half a tank. So from full to empty is the top half, and which really throws. I thought this thing was horrible on fuel. So it's not. You know, she ain't a Prius, I'll tell you that. But yeah, so that is off by quite a bit. So I'll have to keep an eye on that or keep track of my mileage until I figure out if I can change that. Maybe the sender's the wrong one or something, or I'm not sure what. But yeah, that's my new tach. Well, it's a couple days later. Actually more than a couple. But I've been having some issues. I couldn't get, as you can see on the ground over there, there's a puddle of oil. So every time I drive, I get a puddle of oil when I park it, and then it would stop leaking overnight. So still lots of oil in the engine. So I thought, well, I thought it was just oil pan bolts leaking. So just the ones I could see oil on, I redid. I never did, for some reason, I didn't torque them. The second time I think I had to take the oil pan off for some reason, and I didn't torque my oil pan bolts. I just kind of snugged them up by hand. So I thought, you know what, why don't I check the torque on these oil pan bolts to see what they're at, and they were all loose. So they were snug, but they were supposed to be, well, the bigger ones, the 5/16 bolts are, I think 12 foot-pounds, and the rest are like 9-10 foot-pounds, the quarter 20s. So they were all at like, I don't know, 1-2 foot-pounds. So they were all loose. So I went around, I'd take my starter out, retorqued all my oil pan bolts. I have another gasket on order just in case I have to drop it, which shouldn't be actually too terrible. I just have to take this one bar out, I think, and I should be able to slide everything forward. Hopefully. If not, I'd have to take my steering down and everything. So hopefully I don't have to do that. Yeah. But what else did I noticed I had a rattle the other day and I couldn't pinpoint it, but one of my header bolts, as you can, I don't know if you can see up there, this one, that one? No, that side. There it is. That guy there. The nut fell off. So that bolt was kind of rattling around, so that was causing my noise. So yeah, I just had the inspection cover off to see where the oil's coming from. It's coming from the outside here. It's dripping down. So I think it was leaking around there. It's dry inside there, so everything should be okay. Hopefully that solves my leaking problem. So I don't have to do much more work. So I'm gonna get my starter put back in, get this bolted back together. I won't be able to take it for a test drive because of course it's raining again. But I think tomorrow's supposed to rain too. The day after though, we're gonna take it for a spin. So, all right, get this bolted back together. Okay, well, it is a day later. I just took the car for a quick drive. Maybe did, 15K? 10 miles? I guess that's 16K, whatever. And it looks like I don't have an oil leak anymore. Because normally they'd be dripping all the way down already. The engine's nice and warm, so yeah, that's awesome. So I'll keep an eye on it. I'm gonna drive it probably, well, almost every day this week. Today's Tuesday, and it just finished raining today. It's nice and sunny. It's supposed to be like this for the next 5 days, so see if I can put this through the paces. Yeah, we'll see how it goes and see if my oil leak stops. So On that note, thanks for watching. It's another video. Got a little bit of playing around to do. Next, I did get my calibration kit right here. Is that backwards? Looks backwards. Yeah. So I'm gonna get girlfriend to help me out with that, so I can drive along and she can watch the vacuum gauge, write it down, and then maybe I'll even plot a little graph and see what changes happen when I start changing. I'm just going to start with needles. I don't think it's far off from the looks of the plugs, so I may just go a little leaner on a needle and see what happens there. So anyways, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.